up, Lemon Heads? Welcome to a whole nother episode of From the Yellow Chair. I am Crystal, and y'all, today I am talking about something that has so many of you contractors riled up, and that is a little bit of AI, but some ways that you can utilize AI to really drive your business forward that are common sense now that I've heard them. But guys, you've got to hang around and listen to how being instant when we are responding to our needs from our market is really going to be a game changer. So stop what you're doing, put those headphones in, get ready, go in for your drive or your run, whatever you're going to do, but let's sip some lemonade. Y'all, I am so excited. This is a unique thing. So Lemon Seed actually utilizes this company for our own processes that we have in place here. And when I listened to Nick and his team, I had to realize like everyone needs to be listening to this message behind why they do what they do. And so Nick, welcome to the show. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why they should care about what you have to say today.
Thank you so much for having me. A little bit about me in a couple of minutes or less. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my career cutting my teeth, helping companies raise capital, sell their businesses in investment banking, although that's a dirty word sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Then I ended up transitioning to more of an operational role where I built and scaled a bunch of fast-growing technology companies before starting a handful of my own. So I've had experience over the past 20 some odd years building 3 organizations to 9 figures in revenue. So a lot of ups and downs in that process. And my goal throughout all those, every single organization I've been a part of, whether I started or whether I worked in it, has always been the growth function. How do we help grow revenue? And so that's the angle that I approach pretty much everything with.
I love it. And that's how we all should be approaching our businesses, and what actually started a good conversation for Lemon Seed as well. So, let's jump into in here about how I think what your messages can really help contractors. So, hey, leads are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I see is like Lemon Seed can be your quarterback, right? Your digital company can be your quarterback. But man, my wide receivers and my linebackers are fumbling the ball when it comes to taking care of the lead and getting those leads booked. And so this is such a time where I'm like, man, it is so expensive for us to generate true new customer acquisition and leads for the contractor on the internal side of their business to just fumble the ball. So what do you think it means for the contractor when we can start answering things maybe more quickly and getting to them with a better response? What does that look like? What have you seen happen there?
Yeah, so I want to say one thing before I even jump into that, which is not only is advertising expensive, the cost to acquire customers is expensive, but the value of the leads that you're bringing in, when you start looking at the contract value, the repeat business that are coming in, those are really expensive leads from a revenue standpoint,
Yes.
right? Forget the cost of the lead. The actual revenue that it's bringing in is incredibly, incredibly valuable, especially if they stay with you. We have pest control businesses. They're like, my clients stay with me for 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
And so that $50 a month or $100 a month that they're paying is extremely valuable. And so what we often see are organizations in the trades missing calls ringing, folks hanging up. We always see these Facebook messages. Hey, I'll get back to you soon. Right? If you do not answer a lead within 3 seconds, the likelihood of you converting that into a deal drops by 8x. Right? There are some really scary stats here. If you are not this whole business is predicated on first to respond, first to close, right? If I see a cockroach in my house, or if I have a problem and I'm reaching out and the organization that I'm reaching out to does not answer, I'm going to call someone else until I get.
I have a problem. Well, if your AC is not working in July, I'm going to keep looking.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Speed is incredibly important, and it shows up in the stats, and we have a bunch of case studies to show it as well.
Well, and right now, speed to lead, right? Speed to the lead. And people have such negative connotations about that a lot of times. And we just have to get past it. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat that. Like, yes, we've lived this life as contractors of these lead aggregators, just wearing us out, getting down to bottom dollar, tire kickers. But really, at the end of the day, what really matters the most is every opportunity is an opportunity. It's just that, an opportunity to win something. And so, yes, you might run across a few that you're like, man, I rushed to take care of this customer. It's not even a great fit for us. I'm just a big fan of like, get the call booked, get out and run the call, and you can figure it out later.
Yes.
Figure out the specifics of it later. But man, speed wins, because if you're not first, you're not even going to get an opportunity at that lead. And so, fast response really turns inquiries, I think, into real jobs with long-term engagement and good relationships with those people. So even again, you just never know. And everybody's like, oh, these are tire kicker leads. I get so sick of hearing that. Like, I could talk about that for days. Like, everyone, most people are price conscious out of the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, even your own, I tell my contractors, even you yourself are price conscious. You don't just go to a car dealership and be like, yeah, I'll take it at the first price. Most of y'all are like, well, they're so expensive. I'm like, that's what they think of you. You've got to build a relationship.
But even more of a reason to automate that process, right?
Mm.
So that you can, remove yourself. If you're saying, hey, I qualify 100 leads a day, I'm like, that maybe that's not the best allocation of your time or your team's time,
Mm.
right? No one is booking because you're qualifying, right? So being able to separate the really high value human enabled activity from things that are repetitive in nature that can be outsourced to AI and make you more efficient, more effective. Those are some of the things that you should be evaluating.
Well, and as owners, we want more revenue, but like we're worried about the admin headaches, right? So like, do I have to have, what all would this entail? And I know your company distance solves this issue. But you're right. Like, so many of these contractors are looking at things as like, what is the workflow for this type of speed to lead? So what have you seen work is like just the overall customer journey when you're using things that like this?
So we have a few different playbooks that we've seen run. I'll start with voice. I think voice is a really interesting one. A lot of our clients say, hey, you know what? We're pretty good at answering the phone. We don't miss that many calls. And I say, great. But what happens when you do? Well, instead of converting 60, 70% of those jobs, I'm now converting 10%, 5% of the calls that I've missed. So why don't we have the AI act as a buffer? When the phone rings 3 times and we know that we're likely going to miss the call or it's going to go to voicemail, let's have the AI intercept and handle the call for you. So you never have a voicemail. You never have a missed call. So that's a really good use case of basically enhancing your human capability. We also have clients that say, I'm not answering the phone at night. And that's a huge missed opportunity. If your air conditioning breaks, to go back to your example, you're not waiting until business hours to get in touch with an organization. Like, you don't care about the company's hours, you care about your hours. And as business owners, you need to be ready when your customer's ready. And so having the ability to answer and respond to leads even at 1:00 in the morning, that gives you a competitive advantage. And quite frankly, over time, I think that's going to be table stakes. So if you're not doing that today, competitive advantage. If you're not doing that in the future, you're going to be at a disadvantage.
Well, I remember I was just telling my kids this story. I was like, there was a day where you would call your friends and they were just not home. So you had to wait for them to get home. Like, because my kids, they don't realize, so they're 15 and 18. They don't realize patience of things because everything is readily available to them. They can call anyone at any time from anywhere. Well, even when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, I remember like I would be like leaving a voice message like, where are you at? I'm waiting on you to call me back. And then I would be the teenager that wouldn't leave their room because somebody was going to call me back, right? But now the expectation is immediacy.
Yeah.
The expectation is that your hours are my hours, and no longer. I mean, I remember my grandparents, my grandmother ran a craft store. Before Hobby Lobby was a thing, she was running this craft store and we worked in there, and she would always tell me like, hey, when we close the shop at 6 p.m., when we come back in the morning, the first thing you do is check all of your messages. But that's going to be our busy time because everybody's calling. And I remember like I learned that. Well, now I'm like, it's really not the truth anymore as much, because honestly, the morning time, I'm more dealing with technicians than I am dealing with actual customers because there's so many ways to get in touch with us. And so it's definitely a change of times that most of us really have a hard time coming around to. That who in the world expects us to give them an answer at 1:00? Well, technically you do if you really think about it now. If you want to order something to wear next week, you can go on Amazon any time of the day and not order it and get it shipped here. So the whole point here is you can fight instantly responding all you want to, but really what's happening is you're getting further and further away from the new norm of the customer journey of them needing services.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, but these AI tools, do you worry, or at least I worry. So let me put my worries out there. I worry about their ability to speak naturally and to answer to answer things that impact the customer journey. I'm going to beat up the customer journey here because as a brand, though, as a brand girl, I can't help but make sure, Nick, that my experience with my company is very authentic and on brand. So, is there things that like companies like Distance do to secure the content that it's going to be in my voice and things like that? How does that
Yeah.
work?
Well, let me actually tackle that with 3 responses, okay? Because I think
Okay.
you brought up a really good point here.
Okay.
One is if you're using AI voice, 90% of our customers are using AI voice as a backup system. So they're not putting AI at the front of house on the voice side specifically, right? AI
Okay.
voice is really a tool that's used after hours or used as a contingency system when someone tries to reach out for you and you don't have the time to pick up or you're overwhelmed. And that is a much better experience than missing a call or going to voicemail,
Well, and consumers
right?
understand that better. They understand that
Absolutely.
more.
Well, the worst customer experience is you don't get back to them, right?
No,
Or you
at
get,
all.
or they leave a voicemail. They have no idea when you're going to call them back. If you're going to call them back, they continue on their merry way to look for a solution provider. So that, as an alternative, like what are we comparing ourselves to on the voice side? Well, we're comparing ourselves to a missed call. We're comparing ourselves to a voicemail. And those are terrible outcomes, right?
Mhm.
As a business owner, especially if you look at it from a conversion standpoint. So that's part one. Part two is the actual quality of the voices have improved dramatically. I think a lot of people have this misnomer that AI voice sounds like, um,
A
JP Morgan
robot or
Chase or like Bank of
yeah.
America's telephone line circa, 1999. And
Yeah.
it does not. It answers questions. If you say your name is Crystal, and then halfway through the conversation, you say your name is John, it's going to say, excuse me, is your name John or Crystal? I need to clarify. Right. Because it's going to take that information and pipe it into your CRM afterwards. And so it wants to make sure that it's getting the information right. So it is a conversation. Anyone who's used ChatGPT or some of these AI tools understands the efficacy of those conversations. I will say on the chat side, it's orders of magnitude better than a human. I mean, it's fast, it's responsive. You can train it to be more bubbly, less bubbly. Use emojis, don't use emojis. There's quite a bit that you can do there. It can very much be on brand. To kind of quote your
Well, and
word.
I've seen that, with some companies that we work with and, for Lemon Seed for ourselves, but I just know that's a common fear is like, well, how do you read like, if you're booking appointments for me, what if this customer, needs special accommodations? And my advice is always this: do not build processes around the outliers. So might there be something that gets misconstrued? Maybe, or misaligned? Maybe. So there is possibly going to be a few little caveats that slip through that's something unique, but you can't not launch updated software and more complex things, all because of the fear of the one or two big outliers that might be out there. So that's my biggest encouragement to my contractors right now is let's not build processes around outliers.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
build processes around the overall comprehensive data and the ability to navigate and update and pivot. Like, I don't know. I just don't want people getting caught in that.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And then the trust factor, you and I talked a little bit about the trust factor already, but some owners really worry that it feels so impersonal. And so does it learn over time?
Hmm. Yeah.
Or how do you start off well?
Yeah. So, it's really from a conceptual standpoint, I think you need to approach this type of activity with 2 lenses. I'm both implementing a technology that is doing a job, that is doing work for me. Therefore, I need to approach it from a labor standpoint. I need to train it. I need to set it up properly. I need to give it feedback. You can't just plug a tool like this in and expect it to be as efficacious as a CSR. You need to work with an organization like Distance that is going to put care and attention into setting it up properly, into training it properly. And then there is a little bit of work involved to ensure that you're giving feedback, right? You're training it, you're giving it guidance so that it improves. In the same way, if you were going to hire someone today to do this job, you'd probably start them off, you'd give them some training, you'd probably listen to a few of their calls, give them some feedback. A lot of those parallels exist today with this tool. The only difference is this tool is a lot more efficient. It works 24/7. It
Yeah.
doesn't take breaks, and it could take 1,000 calls at the same time.
It's not dramatic. It's not, yeah,
Exactly.
all the things, all the
Exactly.
things.
Exactly.
Well, okay. So I think most of our contractors understand that this is a cool tool, speed to lead. One of the things that I really loved about what you mentioned earlier is that you have a lot of lessons from scaling these different companies to 9 figures, which is a lot of people's goals here. And they're probably thinking I'm struggling to launch 1 to 9 figures. But, I just thought we would ask, like, what are lessons that you think could translate over to my service business owners, my contractors, that maybe you did in scaling these different businesses that they could remember and they could take with them?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I think process is incredibly important, right? At the
Mm,
beginning, there's no process. You're running around like a chicken without a head, just trying to execute. But creating a script, creating a process, something that is trainable and repeatable, is incredibly important. And we actually see this quite a bit with folks who are using the AI, and let's say they dust out their old manual and say, "Hey, these are the scripts I'm going to use for the AI." And then we implement them, and they're like, "Hey, it shouldn't say that." Well, like, well, that's in your script. And they
yeah.
realize, "Oh my goodness, I haven't revisited my scripts in a long time," right? So I
Mm.
think, making sure that you're putting a lot of energy and focus into those playbooks, I think, is incredibly important. Number two is hiring the right people, right? I think ultimately,
Mm.
whether it's AI, whether it's human plus AI, having the right tools and the right people to give yourself the opportunity to grow and scale is incredibly important. I think those are the two fundamental building blocks that you need in order to achieve escape velocity.
Well, and I hate to say this because I really don't want to utilize AI to replace people. I want to use it to be more a resource,
Yeah,
and make people that are in current roles be more efficient and more efficient. I'm hung up on that word, but more efficient. And so, I think that you also need to understand, your labor needs. You need to be able to project. You need to know your numbers. You need to know what it looks like. So, I mean, I have contractors all the time who, like, they can't forecast for capacity because they can't forecast for financials either. So, like, you would have known that there's no way for you to hit that financial
yeah,
goal based off your average ticket if you would have done the math to know you need to hire 2
oh yeah,
technicians.
yeah. 100%. Part of what we do with distance is, part of it is AI, but the other part of it is funnel building, right? How do we take something that's coming top of funnel, leads coming in from different sources, and be much more efficient at converting them all throughout that customer journey all the way to the bottom? And a lot of contractors don't really have visibility into what those levers are, right? Where am I getting traffic? Where am I getting my referral sources from? How confident am I that I'm going to hit those numbers tomorrow? What do I need to do to drive those numbers up? And so, I would say most of the folks that we talk to spend a lot of time thinking about the top side of the equation, and then less time and energy is spent looking at the middle and the bottom. How efficient are we at converting them across different channels, right? Facebook. If I'm doing Facebook ads, how efficient am I at converting leads? What's the cost to acquire
Mhm.
these leads? How much revenue am I making versus going door to door versus doing, PPC ads versus my affiliate sources? And really, when you start to drill down, you start to get some really interesting insights about what's moving the needle and where you should be investing more money. And so a lot of what we do is we help make all of those different funnels much more efficient. Because at
Yeah.
every point in those customer journeys, you're getting a phone call, you're getting an SMS, you're getting a form filled out, you're getting someone coming on your website. And do you have the right mousetraps to connect with those folks 24/7, 365 to make the most of that return on investment?
I love mouse traps. I love that word because it's so literal in my mind. So, we are busy people now. Again, this just goes back to how different life is now than most people grew up that are running businesses right now. But used to there wasn't all of this distraction and all of these things. Well, now, like, I have good intentions of you coming out and doing my tune up. But I forgot and I got distracted because my kid called and he needs money and I need to go take him to a practice and oh shoot, I was going to schedule that. So, there's so much power in these reminders and these
Yep.
automations that are just keeping you top of mind with homeowners, and when we neglect to be intentional about that, when we neglect that idea, what happens is we get left behind. And then all it takes is one company that's coming in behind you and doing the reminders and just grabbing people in these unique spots to
100%.
to change our direction of business.
Well, I totally agree with you. Let me paint a picture for you.
Okay.
If the only call to action you have on your website is a phone number, what you're telling your customer is that the only way to get in touch with me is by you calling this number. So what happens to the person who's on the road, got three screaming kids in the back, does not have the time capacity or patience to jump on a phone call. Well, if you were to have SMS as a call to action, if you were to have live chat, if you were to have different modalities to connect with folks, you will get more people connecting with you. It is very simple. Create more opportunities so you can meet your customers where they are, where they want to be, and not necessarily forcing them into your preferred method of communication. That just gives you more surface area to capture and convert leads. You're
Yeah.
probably missing leads today if that is the case, right?
Well,
There are
and I mean
folks that,
that contractors will go 10 toes down, as I say, on, we're not going to do online scheduling. And I'm like, listen, I work in an office. I need to be able to multitask. I need to be able to go, but you know what I can do? I can book my hair appointment. I can book my nail appointments. I can book my kids' vet, or not my kids. My kids don't go to the vet. My dogs go to the vet. All my doctor's appointments. I can book all of that online, because it makes it easier to navigate in a busy life. And so have your phone numbers for the people that want to call. I'm here
yeah,
for it.
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, like, more and more people want to see a calendar and see their options. And, you're fighting an uphill battle right now. Like, whereas you could be just slowly but surely rolling out new ways to work with your company. We're
Yeah,
so afraid to work with a client. Like, they might
100.
use us.
Yeah, 100%.
For work for sure. So,
Yeah,
well, the last little topic that I thought we could kind of cover here is, and I'm going to jump back to the AI side of things. Nick, like, where do you think, and this is a surprise question, I really didn't give you this as a prep question, so you're welcome. But where do you think that most contractors need to be thinking about this AI side of life?
yeah.
How do we not get distracted by the noise?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of conferences, and as you can imagine, the keynote speaker, whether it's me or someone else, is always talking about AI, and there is a lot of noise. I think everyone can agree at this point that it's a very powerful technology, and I don't think we need another keynote to come up there and saying AI is important. I think we all get that at this point.
Yeah.
Um, I think you need to be very conscious about why you want to use this tool, and you can use it across the board for pretty much everything. So it can get very overwhelming. But the easiest use case, the one that's going to add the most value for you, is to do what you're already doing, but much better. You're already answering the phone. How do we make that better? How do we complement what you're already doing using this technology
Mm, mm.
versus saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to create a whole new flow, a whole new process. That's very laborious. That's very hard. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do that are very advanced, but you got to start with something that is not just accessible, but something that you can get up and running that's going to add impact to your business right away. And when you're touching the revenue line of the equation, that's exactly what happens. And so for most contractors, where we see the biggest impact is in misleads. And it's not just on the voice side. It's, whether you're advertising, right? People will come to you and say, hey, I need to spend money on my ads, whether it's, Google LSAs, whether it's Facebook and Meta ads. And oftentimes we'll just add, you know, more efficacy on the existing process that they already have. For instance, if you click on an ad right now on Facebook and you go from Facebook to a landing page, and I got to read a bunch of information, I got to find a phone number, I got to call a phone number, it rings 2 times, maybe I got to leave a voicemail. There's so many steps there for me to just get someone on the line to answer some questions to see if this might be a good fit. Now, what happens if you click on an ad and instead of doing that whole song and dance, we just started a DM right away, a direct message in the Facebook page? Well, now the time to value is 0. Out of 100 clicks, you're starting 100 conversations. And you're going to have more conversations. You're going to qualify more leads. And all that's on autopilot. And then the humans can take care of the follow-ups, etc. But you're letting the computer do the work of the work to help make your life better, help you drive more revenue, help you drive more leads. And I think that's the mindset shift that needs to happen with a lot of contractors for them to start really getting a lot of value out of these types of technologies. And it's something that you can get up and running super, super quickly. So it's not this, 3-week process, 1-month process. No, I mean, for not a lot of money and for not a lot of time, you can get up to speed pretty quickly and have some
Well,
impact in
I
your business.
love I love what you said here about it's taking things that you're already doing. So there's no need to start adding all of these complex things that you weren't doing. Look at the things that you're currently doing and how can you make them, like you said, faster, more efficient, just more um innovative. to
Yeah.
gain new customers, or to take care of your existing customers. Well, Nick, is there any other advice that you would like to give any of our listeners about what you've got going on, or just business in general?
Yeah, well, what I will say is if folks are interested in learning more about distance, they can certainly reach out. We help
Yep.
a lot of different contractors on the PCO side, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I mean, just every single category under the sun. Help do exactly what we've just been talking about, which is capture more leads, book more jobs using chat, voice, and a bunch of other really cool tools on the AI side.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. And listen, guys, I just want to tell you, we met at a pest control show, didn't we?
We did, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Lupita, those of you that know Lupita and I were at a pest control show, and she comes over here and she goes, "I've met this guy that you must meet. You're going to love him." And so she brings you by the booth, and I was like, "Oh, I do love this." Mainly just because it solved a problem for Lemon Seed of speed to lead that was not overly complex. So
Yeah,
pretty easy to integrate. Now, listen, we all have to spend some time, but pretty easy to integrate and things like that. So, but Nick, thank you for joining me today. For our listeners, again, you can learn more about distance at distance.so. Is that right?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, distance.so. And as always, we'll put it in the show notes and when we're sharing this podcast out on our socials. So don't forget to subscribe to From the Yellow Chair, leave us a review, and come back next time for more conversations from the Yellow Chair. We will see you next time.